Good evening. I'd like to call the regular meeting of the Budget and Finance Commission to order. First, we will start with a roll call of the commissioners present.
Hi, Commissioner Allen,
Here.
Commissioner Jesty,
Here.
Commissioner Marin,
Here.
Chair Castle,
Here.
Commissioner Woodham,
Here.
Commissioner Samples,
Here. Commissioner
Sherbin.
Here.
Thank you. Next, we will salute the flag. Please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Next, we'd like to approve the order of agenda for tonight. Do we have,
I move approval.
do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Next on the agenda, we have the blue folder items. Doug, do we have any blue folder items tonight?
Yes, there's two blue folder items tonight. I've already mentioned they're pulled up on your screens there in those extra tabs. They're not part of any discussion right now. So if anything, it's just a receive and file that you've received the blue folder items.
Okay. And these are summaries of CalPERS, some additional material from our last meeting?
Yes, it was related to an inquiry that came in.
Okay. Do we need to have a motion to receive and file?
So moved. Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
We don't need to review to see what it's about, what
So
No.
when we,
receive and file.
later this evening, Wendy and Stephanie will explain to us
Okay.
what the materials are. They were the ones who submitted the blue folder items.
I just didn't want to say yes.
Okay,
Thank you.
you're welcome. Next on our agenda is the consent calendar. So do we have a motion to approve the affidavit of posting of the regular meeting date?
Motion to approve.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Next, excluded consent calendar items. There are none. And next item on our agenda is the public participation on non-agenda items. Doug, do we have any e-comments or emails tonight?
There are no e-comments and there are no participants on Zoom.
Okay. There are no items continued from previous agendas. And that brings us to items for discussion prior to action. Tonight, first, we'll have the discussion of the fiscal year 24-25 budget timeline from Wendy Collazo, our finance director. Wendy?
Good evening, Wendy Collazo, Finance Director. How are you? Obviously, this item was just a quick just discussion. We wanted to open it up as we prepare for the 24-25 budget, and kind of talk about that so we can, preempt it for you. We're projecting to open up budget discussions now towards the end of January. Those are preliminary discussions just to get an idea of the departments and. Oh. Is that working? Okay. Well, the whole time I thought I was talking, and being heard. So this is just a discussion to give a quick overview of the 24-25. We're projected to open up discussions end of January, and begin preliminary discussions with the departments, start issuing out the budget manual and preparing as we are currently also deploying ClearGov for the budget book preparation, which will be a new thing this year. So that's kind of why we're ahead, as well as trying to prepare to get back into a normal cycle, as I would not like to do a budget in 3 weeks as I did last year. So just wanted to open it up to this commission. Obviously, we'll have the discussions where the city manager comes into the commission have preliminary and also tentative budget documents well ahead and go back to that standard cycle that you're used to. So that was really it. It was just an overview of getting back on a regular timeline as we prepare for that, opening it up to you if you had any additional comments or anything that you'd like us to know as it relates to the 24-25 schedule.
I guess, when do you think we'll see kind of the first cut or have that presentation? Like, what month is that usually in? I don't recall.
I would say the first cut would be, we're projected for, we should have preliminary numbers in April,
Okay.
right? Because we're doing mid-year in, let's see, we're going to be presenting a CFR February and closing that down. And as soon as we do that, we'll walk into mid-year and have that for March.
Okay.
So then that kind of walks us into budget already, so I think preliminary numbers between end of March, April, and start prepping that, you know what I mean, as we get to that towards the end of, or beginning of May, so my intention is not to defer from the original schedule that you've always had. It's kind of returning it back. So I'll solidify that for you with actual dates as we're comparing to make sure that this commission gets every opportunity to see everything with time and well ahead. We won't go to council without you having that either special session if we need to put it in or whatever it'll take. You'll see all documents before. And so we're correlating the two calendars for that.
Okay.
Great, thank you.
There.
So Wendy, this is probably not really in your wheelhouse, but the state just finally settled on the fact that they've got a budget shortfall or expected budget shortfall this year of about 10 or 12%. How is that being handled in our budgeting for this coming year? Because obviously things flow downhill, and that means we can expect that our tax revenue is going to be down to some extent.
Well, I haven't correlated judges because that article and that information just came out to really see the true impact and what that's going to do. But I will tell you that the process will be to parallel it with our budget to see what impacts we're projecting. Just like we do sales tax when we talk to HDL and they give us projections, we trend it, we know what we're expecting. We're going to do the same thing with this to see what the impact may be to some of our state funding, anything that's correlated with that to really know. For the year, what shift we need to do. Currently, the city manager, already has from me for him to kind of sit back and tell me his strategy and where he'd like the direction of mid-year through budget to go. So I have that cognizant as well as we get your input and everything. And then whatever's happening in the state, all that together is going to start with these preliminary numbers that we're running, so we are prepared to do that.
Okay, so at this point, no one's prepared to talk about the anticipated budget this coming year as compared to last year, considering the shortfall, but that's something that's being taken into consideration.
Yes.
Okay. Hey, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions on this item? Okay. Next, we'll have a discussion of the Budget and Finance regular meeting dates for next.
Before we move forward,
Yes.
there's no public participation on this item. And if someone can make a motion to receive and file.
Okay. Do we have a
So moved.
second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
You want to do, typically we do a roll call vote.
Okay.
Commissioner Allen,
Aye.
Commissioner Jesty,
Aye.
Commissioner Marin,
Aye.
Chair Castle,
Aye.
Commissioner Woodham,
Aye.
Commissioner Samples,
Aye.
Commissioner Sherbin.
Aye.
All right. Thank you. So now we'll have the discussion of the regular meeting dates for next.
So just wanted to present an option to this commission as far as right now, and currently your schedule has always been to meet on a Tuesday, early at the beginning of the month.
Or Thursday.
Thursday.
I'm sorry, Thursday, excuse me. Tuesday, maybe I want to work a longer week. Thursday. But that Thursday is normally at the beginning, between the second week of the month, right? We were trying to present what the appetite was for the commission to consider about meeting towards the end of the month, towards the latter. Reason being is that projections, revenue input, reports that we're giving, it's really early in the month, and we're always kind of also navigating to get you more special meetings when we have things like the ACFR, like right now we'll have, a draft for like the ACFR, and we'll have to we're trying to squeeze a special meeting for you to see it, where if maybe you were already in the latter on your regular scheduled, it would work out better. Plus for reporting, the reality is we're not closed by the time that we're meeting ideally. So we project, we footnote and everything, but it would be a much better timeline to capture most of the activity, get your robust reporting. Timeline is better. We don't have as many, like I said, special meetings. So just wanted to put it out there for your discussion as far as what you think about that. We have talked to the city clerk, and they've guided us on the procedure of doing that. Obviously we'd have to have a slot, towards that for them to present and say, yes, you can do it. And then in the long run, also considering having quarterly meetings for this commission, which is something that would have to go through council. Because monthly, the treasurer and ourselves present to you now quarterly reports, and we have material that you just, sometimes don't have some topics on a monthly basis to discuss. So again, just a suggestion, we are here to serve you and what works. Just something to get your thoughts on and what you all think. And the reasoning behind, like I said, more importantly, the Thursday meetings at the beginning of the month was for the reporting purposes. But all the commissions are getting a little bit streamlined, and they're trying to see what really works. If we're having too many meetings that you end up with not enough people or not big topics to, discuss all the time, so again, wanted to put it out to the commission for your discussion so that we can take note and get your thoughts on that.
And if I could just add one more item on the quarterly meetings. As Wendy noted, many times because of scheduling, we end up calling you to additional special meetings, even when we have the 12 scheduled per year. So again, that becomes a little bit of a burden on you. I mean, I know everyone has their lives outside of this. So the idea wouldn't be that we'd expect 4 meetings a year on a regular quarterly schedule. We'd expect, probably double that, maybe more, just based on the budget, mid-year, ACFR, the regular things you're looking at. So the idea is not to, decrease your times meeting. It's to make those times more meaningful and at the most, meaningful points in time for the business that you're considering.
I guess I start.
Sure.
Before they always start this way, right? Third or fourth week of Thursday works for me, and I would vote to keep monthly, not quarterly. Quarterly's just that defeats the purpose of the committee.
Any other?
I don't have any particular preferences right now.
I mean, I think I would be open to, pushing the meeting back a week, I guess the 3rd or 4th week of the month to give you time to close the month. And I do think quarterly would be too few times on the calendar. And, maybe we could, depending on what's on the agenda, not have as many meetings. I think a few months of the year, there's not much to present, but then, meetings where we have like CalPERS, that item alone took us, 2.5 hours just to go through. So to try to squeeze that in with other budgetary items, that would just be, we would have 4 and 5 hour meetings quarterly if we did that. So maybe, we might be able to cut out a meeting or 2 during the year, just to have fewer, but I think pushing it back to the 3rd or 4th week would give you time to close out the month and present, finalized numbers.
Yeah, I agree that meeting first of the month versus the end of the month, I'm indifferent to that. As far as the number of meetings, that had been proposed a year or so ago, I think, and we pushed back on that just because we knew that we needed more meetings than were proposed. But I wouldn't be opposed to scheduling quarterly meetings as a rule, but then knowing that during budget season, we need monthly meetings, or in some cases, 2 meetings a month. So the budget season is the time when we really need more meetings rather than fewer. So we could work something like that, I think, having
And we can always cancel if we see that there's nothing going on
Yep,
next
that's true.
month, or it's Christmas, or it's the spring is coming, the spring break for the kids, we can always cancel it. It's easier to cancel than to schedule.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, like, if we kept, 12 on the calendar, but for example, this month where there's really not that much to discuss, we could pull this meeting and then,
Yep.
save one, but it would be scheduled.
So as I see it, a couple of things. First of all, this committee meets as an advisory committee to the city council. So that means our meetings and the information that you provide to us needs to be in advance of when the city council acts on it. When I first joined this committee, we regularly had meetings where the city council had already accepted a budget and then it was presented to us. Or they had already made other financial decisions and then it was presented to us. And we really had no value. So having monthly meetings on the schedule, I think, is important. And if we need to cancel it, because, for instance, the example of this evening, we don't need to all be here for this, and this could easily be part of the next meeting. I would much rather continue to schedule. And the other thing is, come to think of it, at one point in time, we did push back, and the council was cutting budget. So we pushed back to quarterly meetings, and that was an absolute fiasco. So having monthly meetings scheduled, and when things are very, very quiet, as in this one, canceling the meeting and combining that with a larger meeting, I think is much more appropriate, and it really meets with what I think the city council wants us to do.
Perfect.
Okay. So we'll talk about some potential meetings and what's on the agenda for our next meetings to come up with the annual calendar. I think you have one of those that you've put together of what sort of our meeting schedule is and what's going to be presented at most of them.
Yes, Chairman, and then also Stephanie has started to compile a parallel with the council so that we can be ahead of, like I gave an example, ACFR is going to be presented. We're already calculating to bring it here first and how to correlate, so we can better plan you out as well, so we're not pigeonholing you to be, trying to be respectful of your time, and then the objective, which, as Commissioner Sample said, is to give feedback to the council before they act on it, so.
And if having our meetings during the month, later in the month, fits with the overall council agenda, I personally don't have a problem with that. I'd just like to be able to see things before the council does so that we can provide valuable input. And I would be absolutely in favor of the idea that your department work directly with our chair to figure out when it's appropriate to cancel a meeting in advance, so that everybody knows well in advance that a meeting is being rescheduled or canceled.
And if I may, I'll offer to also check, with our city clerk on that procedure, as far as, because there's been a lot of talk about that with commissions, council, and they have to have, I believe, a purpose, but I'm not well versed enough so I'll verify all the rules that relate to that, so I don't want to set you on a false premise here. So we'll come back with that to let you know what can and cannot be done with that, and move from there, so.
Do we know in advance which items are going to be presented to and discussed at the council meeting, at least a couple of weeks in advance?
Wow, you asked a lot now. That is the goal, yes, that is the goal, because as we now get back to a normal cycle and normalize, from all this transition, we would know, and it would kind of come back to what it used to be, where you knew the ACFR was going to be issued and we'd be done by December, we'd have that catalog. So that's the goal, is to be well ahead for you to know, like budget preparation meetings, when you'll have them, so that you can be, have that information on top of that commits us, because we have to deliver those items well ahead even of council, right? So that is the goal, for you to be well-versed on the items that are going to come up that are traditional. Like, you already know your annual CalPERS review, you would have the ACFR, budget is a big one, and then any additional that we may have, we'd like to form that out to you so you have an idea and kind of get used to that you should see this at this interval. So that's what we're working towards, yes, sir.
And that be added to the agenda so we can avoid any issues like what Commissioner Samples mentioned in the past, that we get the items after the council has already approved them.
As far as like presenting to you the agenda, what it's going to look like, I would say we could put it on the agenda once it's formalized, so you have it, yes. And I mean, yeah, I don't see a problem with that, once we develop it, so you have it, so you can discuss it anyway. You know, we'd have to present it to you as well, so, yes.
But just to reiterate, when, we're meeting and discussing firming dates for city council meetings, for our carryover report, for mid-year, for the ACFR, that's a discussion we're having to build in time for this committee or for this commission to review. So that's a very important consideration for us and for the city manager when we're prepping these reports for council.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, in order to put something on the council agenda, you have to have it prepared several days or weeks in advance?
1 week in advance of the meeting, yes.
Okay, so I don't know how our request impacts that. And quite honestly, between your staff and our city manager and the other departments that we've seen in the last probably year, you've been much better at presenting material. It's been much clearer. It's been much easier to deal with. I've got to respect that, and I've got to respect all the work that you're putting in. But I think we all have a job here. So if you can help us out, we'll help you out.
Just to give you an example of how we're working out the calendar. For example, the ACFR right now, first draft is going to be delivered to us tentatively January 26th. We have till January 30th, at January 30th to make any adjustments or corrections. Then it goes back to the auditors. We're projected to have final ACFR, February.
But mid-February.
Mid-February. So we either present it, if we want to present it to council on a 220 meeting, right? I think that we have to have a special meeting for you all 1 week prior because I won't have final draft. The solution to that, when I share it with the city manager so we can coordinate, is that you all need to see the numbers so we can give you draft ACFR for you to look at, because there's going to be we are confident there's no material change. And that's how we kind of push that along. So that's what we're doing with all the items, is making sure it fits, that we can provide the materials ahead of time, timely, right? Because each council meeting, each commission or council meeting, it's a week prior. Same like yours, we should have it to you, all the week prior to the meeting. So you have enough time to read it and be well versed on it. So we're working on that. We'll lay that out right now. And I think, we're pretty much there and being able to have time, but this commission will not have the information before council. I can tell you that. That's our objective right now. So.
And I don't have a problem dealing with draft information. I mean, if you want to splash across the page this draft and subject to change, at least we have an idea of what we're looking at. And and if there's something that really jumps out, maybe it helps you in preparing that final version.
Yes, sir.
So, okay.
Okay. So I'll work with you together on the dates and the agendas for each meeting, and
Perfect.
we'll test it out.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So I guess with that, we don't have anything. Next would be the member items and referrals. Or do we?
Do we have to take action?
Make a decision.
Where we talked about having the chair work on the calendar, or is there any action that we have to take on that?
I think with this item, it was just to receive and file
Okay.
the discussion.
Move to receive and file.
Second.
I'm sorry, before we do that, my mistake. We do not, for the record, we do not have any e-comments and there's no participation on Zoom.
Okay. Thank you. Can we have a roll call vote on that, please?
Yeah, sure. Commissioner Allen?
Aye.
Commissioner Jesty? Commissioner Marin?
Aye.
Chair Castle?
Aye.
Commissioner Woodham?
Aye.
Commissioner Samples?
Aye.
Commissioner Sherbin?
Aye.
Right, thank you. Next on the agenda are the member items and referrals to staff. I do know that we have a couple of things, again, from Wendy and Stephanie, which are the blue folder items, if you could just tell us what those.
Sure, I'll just brief you on it, and obviously we verified with the city clerk, this is not an agenda item, so there could be no discussion on it, but we'll just to give you a synopsis of what it is. These were the summarized reports for the questions that were had on the CalPERS UAL, the entire year review. We took the complexity of that and answered the questions individually. Originally, the small committee that the city manager had set up with one of your commissioners, Mr. Jerry Woodham, and the treasurer. They talked with the actuary along with us, and this is the summary of that. We wanted you to have that information to regurgitate. And then the PowerPoint presentation that's submitted there is a summary of all the complex data of the reports, summarized for you all so that you can review that and have all the information that was given to that small committee when we were reviewing it. So we're just sharing information for you to regurgitate and simplified some of the complex matters for you visually.
Was there a reason it was not emailed to us? Or was it emailed and I did not receive it?
No, I think we included it. It was not emailed, but it was included as a blue folder item tonight. I think it was just in terms of when it was prepared.
So I didn't see it, so it was attached somewhere.
No, it was not. It was included tonight as a blue folder item. So
Something
that,
special.
But it should be. It
How
should be.
can I then process and read and process when I
Can
don't
this be
have it?
emailed to us so we can actually review it and,
Yes, please.
Yeah, after the meeting, I'm going to email it out to everybody.
great.
In the future, would it be possible to email ahead of the meeting, so we have time to review, and so if we have questions that we can address and discuss? Otherwise, I can't discuss or address anything in here.
That's the reason why it's blue foldered and it's not for discussion. It's,
We're not allowed to
Or just
discuss.
a
right,
late.
that's correct.
We can set it as an agenda item for the next meeting?
That is correct. Yes, you can.
Can we set it up as an agenda item for the next meeting, please?
So we just need
So
to make
that's
a
what I'll do
motion, I
then.
believe.
Because I don't know if it is something I'd like to discuss. If it's not, then it's easy. We won't, we'll keep it short, or we'll take whatever time we need to take.
sure. We could add, I guess, an item. It would come under the items continued from previous agendas, I guess, in our next meeting. If there are any follow-up questions.
Or do we have to make a motion to make this an agenda item for next meeting?
I think you'd have to make it a motion to add it to the next agenda.
Okay. So,
Can I make a motion to add these two blue folder items to our agenda for the next meeting of the Budget and Finance Commission?
Sure.
I second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
And I believe, Doug, this is when I am allowed to discuss the email that I sent to staff, right?
Yeah, you can comment on it.
Okay, I want to share with my colleagues, I asked staff how much we owe CalPERS, the details, the history, that includes the refinance portion, and then so that's the LRB, which is lease revenue bond. So that was $226 million. And then plus the unfunded accrued liability we had prior to 2022 fiscal year, that's $163 million. And then the new liability is $42 million. So that total is $432 million. That's how much we are in debt to
So,
CalPERS in all forms.
If I can just clarify on those numbers, the amounts of the UAL, which is what you had asked for, so the what I provided was, first was the unfunded accrued liability for not our most current actuarial report, but the one that was reflected in our prior actuarial report. That's the $163 million. That is no longer our current unfunded liability. It doesn't add. So the last number that I provided is our unfunded accrued liability as of our most recent actuarial reports, and that total is $42.5 million.
So that's the final UAL.
Yes.
Okay.
So as of our latest actuarial report, that's our unfunded accrued liability.
We still carry the UAL as well, or
That,
the
yes.
lease, yeah.
Yes.
So I think
That-
she was trying to say together, we have debt, whether it's two CalPERS or we've done a separate bond.
Oh, I see.
to
Okay.
basically
Sorry,
fund-
I thought you were
to
adding
fund. So
the,
she's technically adding, but she'll still say we're
I see,
carrying debt
okay.
in another place related to the unfunded pension
okay,
liability.
I see what you're saying. I'm sorry. I misunderstood.
But for our awareness,
Yeah.
that's a big number that we owe to CalPERS. I just wanted to share the information with you.
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting discussion next time because my understanding was the reason we created the bond issue was basically to zero that out. So that means our current unfunded liability should be as of, what is that, 18 months ago? So we can't have that discussion here, but I can't wait to hear this.
But can we, I guess, is it already agendized?
Yeah,
or
so it'll be part of,
agendized
we can
for
have it
next-
as part of this discussion.
Okay.
Yeah. The folder items.
Are there any other members for, anything else for referrals to staff?
Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year.
Every year.
I have a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you.